Running an automobile company today feels like trying to steer a massive cruise ship in a tiny kiddie pool. It's complicated, messy, and full of unexpected challenges. Ford, one of the biggest names in the industry, has been juggling multiple priorities, but not all of them are staying in the air. The days when Ford was at the top of its game, setting records and dominating the market, are now a distant memory. Instead, the company is navigating a turbulent ride, facing issues that seem to pile up one after another. Supply chain disruptions, rapidly evolving technology, and ever-distracted customers have made it harder than ever to stay ahead. On top of that, Ford has been dealing with recalls, layoffs, and a prolonged production shutdown, creating a perfect storm of setbacks. Just when things couldn't seem more chaotic, Ford made a major announcement that sent shockwaves through the automotive world. But what exactly did they reveal, and how will it impact the future of this American giant? Not too long ago, Ford was the undisputed king of the car industry. They didn't just build cars, they revolutionized the way the world moved. Innovation was in their DNA, and they embodied that classic American spirit of ingenuity and progress. But over time, things started to unravel, not because of one colossal mistake, but due to a series of missteps that slowly snowballed. Outdated systems, leadership that seemed disconnected from consumer demands, and internal chaos all contributed to Ford losing its edge. Meanwhile, competitors like Tesla and Toyota seized the opportunity, speeding ahead while Ford struggled to catch up. Now, the situation has reached a boiling point. Ford CEO recently made an announcement that has dealers in an uproar. The company had been capitalizing on high demand, hiking prices on sought-after models like the Bronco. At first, it seemed like a smart business move. Customers were willing to pay a premium and profit soared. But now, that strategy is coming back to haunt them, and Ford is being forced to rethink its approach. As the dust settles, one big question remains. Can Ford reclaim its place at the top? Or is this just the beginning of a bigger shakeup? With the economy shifting and interest rates on the rise, buyers are becoming more cautious. People aren't as eager to drop a fortune on a new car, especially with fears of a possible recession looming. This puts Ford in a difficult position. Should they slash prices and take a financial hit, or hold firm and watch sales continue to decline? Either way, it's a tough choice with serious consequences. To truly grasp the scale of this problem, just walk into any Ford dealership. You'll see rows of F-150s, Broncos, and Rangers sitting idle, collecting dust instead of turning heads. Not long ago, these models were in such high demand that they'd sell before the dealership even had a chance to slap on a window sticker. Now, they're piling up so fast that dealers are running out of room. In some cases, they're even resorting to parking them on grassy fields because their lots are completely full. It's almost like an unintentional Ford truck festival, except nobody's buying tickets. What's even more alarming is the inventory imbalance. There are significantly more brand new 2023 models sitting unsold than the newer 2025s, a rare and concerning trend in the truck market. This isn't just a general auto industry problem. It's a Ford-specific issue that's raising eyebrows. To put things into perspective, as of November 2024, there were still 5,063 brand new 2023 Ford trucks sitting on dealership lots across the United States. That number might not seem staggering at first glance, but when you break it down, it accounts for a surprising 2.5% of all new Ford trucks available. In an industry where new models usually fly off the lot, that's a major red flag. Ford now faces a serious challenge, figuring out how to move this inventory before it becomes an even bigger financial burden. By this time of year, most car manufacturers have already cleared out their older models to make way for the latest lineup. But at Ford, the 2023 models are still sitting on lots, waiting for buyers, collecting dust instead of miles. Meanwhile, the 2025 models? Good luck finding one. Out of more than 200,000 new Ford trucks currently available in the U.S., fewer than 1,000 are 2025 models. That means fewer than 0.5% of Ford truck inventory is actually the latest model year. It's almost as if these trucks are mythical creatures. You hear about them, but nobody has actually seen one. Now, compare that to Ford's competition. Chevrolet, for example, is playing a completely different game. They've already transitioned more than half of their truck inventory to 2025 models, while their 2023s have practically vanished from dealership lots. They're doing exactly what Ford should be doing, keeping inventory fresh and clearing out older models before they become dead weight. Even Ram, though not in a perfect position, is faring much better. Around 2% of their current stock consists of 2023 models, which translates to roughly 2,100 trucks. That's not an ideal situation, but compared to Ford's mountain of unsold inventory, it's a manageable problem. And then there's the Bronco. Not long ago, owning one felt like hitting the jackpot. They were that rare. Fast forward to today, and they're everywhere. It's as if someone hit the clone button overnight. But it's not just the Bronco that's piling up. Ford is facing an inventory crisis across multiple models. And if they don't find a way to move these vehicles soon, they could be in for an even rougher ride. The F-150, Ford's best-selling truck and the backbone of its lineup, is now sitting on dealership lots like part of a parking lot museum. Inventory is so backed up that the only way dealers can move them is by offering deep discounts. And this isn't just happening at a few dealerships. It's a nationwide problem. The Ranger? Same story. A few months ago, you'd be lucky to find one. Now, dealerships are practically waving customers in from the street, hoping to get them off their hands. What makes this situation even more baffling is Ford's response. Despite being flooded with unsold 2024 models, the company's CEO has announced plans to raise the manufacturer's suggested retail price, MSRP, for 2025 models. Yes, you read that right. With all these trucks already struggling to sell, Ford is planning to make the new ones even more expensive. The move has left both customers and dealerships completely puzzled, and, in many cases, outright frustrated. People are asking, what is Ford even thinking? The logistical nightmare doesn't stop there. Many Ford dealerships are so overcrowded with 2024 inventory that they're running out of space. Some have started parking trucks on grassy fields, renting extra storage lots, and getting creative just to manage the overflow. But this raises a bigger question. If they can't sell the 2024 models now, where are they going to put all the 2025s rolling off the production line? And trying to sell those new models at higher prices? That's like trying to sell umbrellas in the middle of a drought. It's an incredibly tough sell. Take the Ford Maverick, for example. Just a few months ago, these compact trucks were selling faster than a summer barbecue. If you saw one on a lot, you were either incredibly lucky or just in the right place at the right time. Demand was sky high, and finding one felt like discovering a hidden treasure. But now, it's a completely different story. Mavericks are everywhere. You can't walk onto a lot without seeing rows of them, and dealers are practically begging people to take them home. Discounts of $1,500 to $2,000 are being offered left and right. The Maverick was already one of Ford's most affordable trucks, and with these price cuts, it's even more appealing. Right now, you can get a base trim model for under $35,000. Not bad for a solid, budget-friendly pickup. While it's no longer breaking sales records, the Maverick is at least holding its own compared to Ford's pricier models. But with Ford's current pricing strategy and inventory pileup, the company is facing some tough decisions ahead. If they don't find a way to fix this, they could be looking at an even bigger crisis in the near future. Let's talk about the Ford Bronco, once the hottest SUV on the market, now struggling to keep up. Remember when it first made its grand comeback? It was the SUV to have, like the second coming of off-road legends. Waiting lists were months long, dealers were tacking on absurd markups, and people were still lining up to pay extra just to get their hands on one. Even Ford employees weren't immune to the hype, willingly shelling out over sticker price just to drive one home. It was a full-blown Bronco mania. Fast forward to today, and the hype has completely fizzled out. What was once a rare gem is now sitting idle at dealerships across the country, collecting dust instead of adventure miles. Drive past a Ford lot, and it looks like Bronco City. Rows upon rows of unsold SUVs, packed so tightly that dealers are having to park them on grassy, overflow lots just to make room. And it's not just the Broncos piling up. Right next to them, more F-150s, including the brand-new 2025 models that Ford has been hyping up, are rolling in, adding to the inventory overflow. The Bronco's fall from grace is hard to believe. Not long ago, it was the ultimate status symbol for SUV lovers. Now, dealers can't move them fast enough. Take the 2024 Ford Bronco Badlands, for example, a beast of an SUV built for rugged adventures. It's got everything: tough as-nails construction, serious off-road chops, and enough trail-ready features to make you want to quit your job and drive straight into the mountains. But then you see the price, $70, $670. Yes, 70 grand. That's enough to make anyone hesitate, especially when its biggest rival, the Jeep Wrangler Rubicon, is sitting right next to it with a much friendlier price tag. The thing is, the Bronco hasn't suddenly turned into a bad SUV. it's still as capable and adventurous as ever. The problem? Demand has cooled off a lot, but Ford production lines never slowed down. They kept churning out Broncos like the party was still in full swing, and now the dance floor is empty. With so much inventory stacking up and prices still high, Ford is facing a tough challenge. Either cut prices and risk hurting their bottom line, or hold firm and hope buyers come back. Either way, the Broncos' wild ride isn't over yet. Now, dealerships are practically drowning in Broncos, and what was once the hottest SUV on the market is starting to look more like a luxury indulgence than a must-have adventure machine. The reality is, times have changed. Interest rates are climbing, the economy is shaky, and people are being much more cautious with their spending. A couple of years ago, a Bronco in the showroom was irresistible. Now, buyers are second-guessing whether they really need one, especially when monthly payments start creeping into luxury car territory. The Bronco's current struggle is a classic case of supply and demand falling out of sync. When it first launched, Ford could barely keep up. The limited supply turned it into a golden ticket, and buyers were willing to pay just about anything to get one. Dealerships saw an opportunity and slapped on ridiculous markups, knowing people would pay. But then Ford ramped up production, and the hype wore off. Suddenly, buyers weren't as eager, and the market flipped. Now, it's the dealerships scrambling to move inventory, offering incentives and discounts to anyone willing to bite. And these discounts? On paper, they sound great. Take this for example. Some dealerships are stacking a $5,600 dealer discount with a $2,000 factory rebate, knocking a total of $7,600 off the price. Sounds like a solid deal, right? But even with that markdown, a high-end Bronco Badlands still sits at $62,900. In today's market, that's a tough sell. Buyers have more options than ever, and they're being cautious with big-ticket purchases. If Ford really wants to move these Broncos, they'll need to dig even deeper into those discounts. Because let's be honest, $62,900 isn't exactly a bargain. If you thought the Broncos pricing drama was bad, wait until you hear about the Ford Expedition. This full-size SUV, the big kahuna of Ford's lineup, is loaded with space, power, and high-end features. But it also comes with a price tag that makes people do a double take. We're talking a starting MSRP of $85,000. Yep, you read that right. $85,000 for a Ford SUV. And despite its size and luxury, customers just aren't biting. Now, dealers are practically begging people to take these off their hands, offering massive discounts, some as high as $11,000. That brings the price down to around $74,000, which is better, sure, but still a hefty chunk of change. Most people expect a big family SUV like the Expedition to be in the mid-$60,000 range, not creeping towards $75,000. And in today's market, where buyers are watching their wallets more closely than ever, that price point just isn't cutting it. Then there's the F-150, Ford's all-star player, the truck that used to print money for them. It was once the undisputed king of pickups, selling like hotcakes year after year. But now, even these legendary trucks are starting to pile up on dealership lots. And when dealers run out of space, there's only one way to clear inventory: slash prices. Right now, some trims are seeing price cuts as big as $10,000. That means for the first time in years, you can actually find certain F-150 models priced under $50,000. And that's a big deal. It's the kind of price drop that might finally convince hesitant buyers who've been holding out. But Ford challenges don't stop there. Their push into the EV market has been anything but smooth. In the third quarter of 2024 alone, their EV division, dubbed Model E, reported a staggering loss of $1.2 billion. And if you zoom out and look at the first 9 months of the year, the losses ballooned to an eye-watering $3.7 billion. Let that sink in. Here's the kicker. During those 9 months, Ford sold about 32,000 EVs. Now, if you break down the numbers, don't worry, I did the math. That means Ford lost roughly $37,500 per EV sold. Think about that. Every time Ford sells an EV, they're taking a massive financial hit. That's the kind of math that keeps CFOs awake at night. But here's the kicker. This isn't just a Ford problem. It's an industry-wide EV problem. The market has gotten way more crowded, and automakers are finding themselves stuck in a brutal price war. Ford CEO Jim Farley even admitted it himself. He called it a global price war that's heating up fast. The issue? Too many EVs, not enough buyers. It's basic supply and demand, but the imbalance is turning into a nightmare for profits. The EV market is flooded with new models. Every automaker is trying to outdo the next, cranking out everything from futuristic sedans to electric trucks. And while that's great news for buyers looking for deals, it's putting massive pressure on companies. Prices are dropping left and right just to stay competitive, but that means razor-thin margins, or in Ford's case, massive losses. And Ford's not alone. Stellantis, the company behind Ram, Jeep, and Dodge, is facing similar struggles. Their lots are filling up faster than they can sell, forcing even steeper price cuts to move inventory. It's a vicious cycle. Too many vehicles, too few buyers, and automakers scrambling to undercut each other. Now, let's talk about the F-150 Lightning, Ford's big bet on the electric truck market. The idea seemed solid. Take the best-selling truck in America and give it an electric heart. It was supposed to be the game changer, rugged, high-tech, and ready for the future. But in reality, it's been a tough ride, and it all comes down to one thing: the price tag. No doubt, the F-150 Lightning is an impressive truck. It's powerful, it's fast, and it's packed with cutting-edge features. But when it comes to sales, not the roaring success Ford was hoping for. In early 2024, Ford's Model E division, their EV business, saw sales drop by 26%. And the financial hit? Brutal. They're expecting a full-year loss of $5 billion to $5.5 billion. That's billion with a B. And that's just the start of Ford's EV headaches. That's right. Ford is literally hitting the pause button on F-150 Lightning production until next year. That's a huge deal. When you have to stop making one of your flagship EVs because nobody's buying it, that's more than just a hiccup. That's a full-blown reality check. And honestly, Ford isn't the only automaker facing this rude awakening. The entire EV industry is dealing with the same thing. Remember how automakers were racing to go electric, throwing billions into new factories, battery plants, and ambitious production goals? Well, now they're slamming the brakes hard. Ford cutting its $12 billion EV investment is just the latest sign that this gold rush isn't going quite as planned. The problem isn't just Ford's pricing missteps. It's that buyers still aren't fully sold on EVs. Sure, the idea of skipping gas stations sounds great, but the reality of high prices, range anxiety, charging infrastructure headaches, and even battery replacement costs, that's enough to make a lot of people say, maybe I'll wait. Take the F-150 Lightning, for example. Yes, it's packed with cool features, like an onboard generator that can power your house, insane towing capacity, and a front trunk that's surprisingly practical. But when Ford first launched it, they slapped a nearly $90,000 price tag on the higher-end trims. And, well, that's a tough sell, especially when gas-powered trucks, like the regular F-150, are sitting right next to it, offering proven reliability and a much lower price. Buyers aren't dumb. They see the numbers, they weigh their options, and they're voting with their wallets. And right now, the market is shouting that EV demand isn't as strong as automakers thought. That's why Ford's had to make so many drastic decisions, scaling back that massive battery plant in Michigan, delaying their next-gen electric pickup to 2027, and outright canceling an electric SUV they were hyping up. At this point, it feels like Ford is trying to juggle bowling balls on a unicycle. They went all in on EVs, but now they're realizing that the transition isn't going to be as fast or as profitable as they hoped. The big question is, what's next? If Ford, and the industry as a whole, doesn't figure out a better strategy soon, this EV roller coaster could get even bumpier. The entire auto industry is feeling the heat as the EV honeymoon phase wears off. It's not just about the F-150 Lightning or Ford struggles. This is an industry-wide reality check. Take General Motors, for example. They've had their own issues ramping up EV production, delaying models like the Chevy Silverado EV and the electric Equinox. Even Tesla, the golden child of the EV world, has been slashing prices left and right just to keep demand steady. And Rivian? They're still burning cash like a bonfire just to stay in the game. The issue boils down to one thing. Automakers bet big on EVs, assuming the transition would be smooth, but consumer adoption hasn't kept pace with their ambitious production goals. Ford, GM, and others were gearing up for an EV revolution, but instead, they're dealing with an EV reality check. And it's not just about pricing, though that's a huge part of the problem. Charging infrastructure is still a major concern for buyers, especially in rural areas. Public chargers are often unreliable, and for many, installing a home charger just isn't feasible. Then there's range anxiety. concerns about battery lifespan, and resale value uncertainty, all of which make buyers hesitate before pulling the trigger on an EV purchase. So, where does Ford go from here? They're already shifting strategy, cutting back on EV investments, and focusing more on hybrid vehicles. CEO Jim Farley has openly said that Ford sees hybrids as a critical part of their future, especially in the near term. The Maverick and F-150 hybrids are actually selling really well, proving that consumers might be more willing to take a step toward electrification without fully committing to a battery-powered vehicle just yet. The big takeaway? The EV transition isn't happening overnight. The hype was real, but the reality is way more complicated. Automakers that adapt, by balancing EVs, hybrids, and gas-powered models, will have the best shot at coming out on top. Ford's lightning slowdown is just one example of how expectations don't always match reality in the auto industry. And right now, the reality is clear. EVs are the future, but the road to mass adoption is bumpier than anyone expected. High interest rates, inflation worries, and economic uncertainty have buyers pumping the brakes on big-ticket purchases. When monthly payments start looking more like a second mortgage, suddenly, that shiny new truck or SUV doesn't seem like a must-have anymore. For dealerships, that's a serious problem. If inventory isn't moving, they're stuck with vehicles they've already paid for, tying up cash flow and forcing them to offer bigger discounts just to clear their lots. It's a downward spiral, one that AutoNation clearly wanted to step away from. But let's not forget the elephant in the room, Ford's aggressive EV push. The company has been heavily focused on electrification, but with demand for EVs not matching expectations, that strategy is looking riskier by the day. Dealers have been vocal about their struggles with Ford's EV program, with some even opting out of selling electric models altogether. The costly investments in charging infrastructure, uncertain consumer demand, and high price tags have made selling Ford EVs more of a challenge than a gold rush. AutoNation's decision to dump multiple Ford dealerships might not just be about slow sales. It could also be a warning sign about the long-term outlook for Ford's business model. If other dealer groups start following suit, it could force Ford to rethink its retail strategy, pricing, and even production plans. At the end of the day, the auto industry is in a major transition period. Gas-powered cars still dominate sales. Hybrids are gaining traction, and EVs, while inevitable in the long run, are facing growing pains. Ford is caught in the middle, trying to balance all three while navigating a shifting market. The big question now is whether Ford can adjust fast enough. If they don't, AutoNation might not be the last major dealership group to cut ties.